face.
Hey, what's up, cool kids? Wait, how's it, Kathy?
What's up, all you cool cats and kittens?
Yeah, that's right. All right, so first, we got to get this thing going. Hi, guys. This is sort of a different way than what we were going to do. We're hoping you dig in these outfits, though. I got to get this over to our friends, our lovely friends over on Facebook. Because apparently, we have friends on Facebook.
My hair is getting way too long.
Yeah, that happens.
Gina.
Oh, no.
Gina cuts my hair. That's why I said Gina.
Oh.
Gina cuts my hair.
Ah! There we go.
See, though? Like, it's mad long.
Sure do.
But look how nice that grew out. Good job.
It's great.
I'm just spilling time for you.
Yeah, she's just filling time for us.
I'm checking out my hair.
She's going to get real close to this camera. No, I'm not.
Is this on? Can you guys see me? I was just pretending to be an old person.
You're doing great.
Camera,
yeah,
I can't get over there, so you have to.
It's excellent. You're doing excellent work.
Thanks. I'm trying.
All right. We'll get going here in just a sec. And
Your hair looks surprisingly nice for a quarantine look. I mean, definitely can tell I've been eating more.
I think everybody appreciates what you're doing right now.
I'm sure they do. Can I get a facelift while we're home?
No.
I guess that's.
I mean, I can lift your face with my hand, but that's
I'm just gonna get
dumb,
that tape
what I
that
said.
makes your face go.
All right. Let's see here. Everyone is being awesome. And we're going to post that. We're going to post it. Not like with a post-it. That was dumb.
I'm winking at everybody.
What's that?
I'm so good at winking at everybody.
I think you should, yeah. You know what? Take a few minutes here.
Just wink at everyone?
Yeah, and just wink. Wink at everybody. That's
gun.
That's the way to do it.
Oh God, I can't see now because I winked at both of them and it hurt.
Oh no.
I'm hurting myself.
What is happening?
Poke myself in the eye. I got too excited. Was that Parks and Rec? I think when. Oh no, it's Joey when they're talking about me, myself, and I, because they're saying like Rachel is afraid of getting things in her eye.
Yes.
And they're like, "Have you seen The King and I?" And Joey's like, "Me too, and he pokes himself in the eye. Oh, Joey. Maybe like my
Joey.
Boston Terrier mug.
I like your Boston Terrier mug.
Or it could be a French Bulldog. We could go either way because we love them both.
By the way, if you're watching this, that probably means that you're home. Good job on staying home.
I went to the grocery store today and it was not fun, and I don't want to do it again. So hopefully we have enough food for like at least a week and a half, 2 weeks, because I don't want to leave ever. But I was very brave. So brave.
This is the side of my face
that you like or don't like.
I haven't decided yet. All right. Dun 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 dun. And
wait, can I bring my papers up?
Sure did.
Sure didn't.
Sure didn't. She didn't.
We're probably going to have a few moments of Kathy can't read her own writing because, you know, I never can read my own writing.
All right. Hi.
Hey.
Hello there. It's just like do one of these. There we go. So my chair is squeaky.
Oh my God, it's so squeaky.
You're welcome. So
it's just the chair. He promises.
It's
always.
not my old bones.
I was saying gas, but I'm being Kermit. You know, the tea drink.
Oh, yes. So the last time we did a live stream of the podcast, gosh, this chair is so great. The last time we did a live stream of our podcast, we had our normal setup with like said microphones and all that stuff. And anyway, that proved to be a bit of a challenge, which I still got to work out because we were running two cameras, but then one was bleeding into the other. Anyway, so this time I figure what we're going to try to do is just talk about stuff, just like we would do on the podcast.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try and see if I can get the audio ripped. And I'll upload that as an episode. And it's going to be great.
And, this is kind of an extra episode anyway. I mean, I don't feel like I'm definitely going to talk about mental health stuff with the show, but it's a little bit of just how crazy it is and just how I feel that things like this are a good distraction right now.
I'm sorry that this is not Tiger Stripe.
Well, mine's not either. I will admit I don't have any tiger stuff, but this is animal-y. So, hi, Mike.
Hello, Mikey. What's up, man? What's going
you
on?
Are so far the only one.
Yeah.
Oh, should we share it?
They
on
only
our
know
other,
that
Should we share
if
it
you
on
tell
our other
them that.
pages?
Yeah, I did that.
Oh, you did already?
Yeah,
Okay.
they only know that if you tell them.
Well, they're not watching, so how
Spoiler
would they
alert.
know?
Not everyone is here yet. Anyway, it's great to be here with you guys. And so the past week or so, since we 2 weeks ago we recorded, but we did the whole bracket thing, which has been
that was fun.
interesting so far.
I'm so annoyed.
You want to talk about that real quick?
Sure, yeah. Because
Okay.
I definitely am annoyed, but I'm more mad at myself. Like I said yesterday, I went with what I actually liked on the bracket, which as someone who does sports like you know that's a bad idea, right?
You can't go with the heart.
Right.
You
But
gotta go with the head.
I couldn't. I had to go with my heart. But it's a real barn burner right now, though.
It's a real barn burner.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that phrase comes from, but it means it's close. Goodfellas, Moulin Rouge are pretty much tied. I think last time I looked, it was Goodfellas 12, Moulin Rouge 10.
That's not a tie.
I said pretty much tied. Shut up. At some point, it was 10-10, and then some more people voted for Goodfellas. But there's still time. We have all day tomorrow. So,
I forgot. Oh, I'm sorry. Mike wants to know where Carol Baskin is. We're gonna get into her and everything too.
well, she ain't here. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. So all right. We can just get right into this. I don't know anything about Tiger King except that I remember watching an episode about local elections. I think it was.
On John Oliver.
Yeah. Or no, it was a presidential election.
He ran for president.
Yeah.
Yes.
On Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. My favorite show. My favorite late night host. I love you, John Oliver.
Your favorite everything.
Yes.
Loves him.
Anyway, so I was watching that, and I remember seeing a clip where he talked about this absurd person, very quirky, very eccentric, named Joe Exotic, and that I thought that was the last I would ever see or hear about that.
No.
Except that I remember at one point hearing about an arrest, and then I thought that was that, but now this Tiger King Netflix
Documentary.
yeah,
It's a
documentary is being talked about all over the place. And Kathy's like, "Oh my gosh, this thing is." I'm like, "Yeah, I know who that guy is." You're like, "What?"
Yeah.
But I don't know anything about really anything involving the documentary
Yeah, you
outside
saw
of
like
what
a
I.
2-minute.
Yeah. The only thing I know is what they talked about on John Oliver.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just go right into this? We can just do that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading, and other than just watching it, I didn't realize they first started making this documentary just to look into conservation of animals, because they wanted to talk about how tigers are kept in captivity more in America than the number of tigers in the world or something like that. I promise you, I'm not gonna have a lot of facts in this. I'm doing great, but are you looking that up for me?
No, I have a question when you are done explaining.
Okay. But as they started talking to these people that have these private zoos and things like that hold the animals in captivity, there was just a lot of wild stories. And like I'm going to talk about later, there is definitely a personality type. Some people would say a personality disorders type that seems to keep big cats. And it's like another world. It's really crazy. It's weird. And I had listened to a podcast about this. So I thought, I know all the story. I'm not going to really enjoy this that much, but seeing it is a completely different story. And it also, the podcast only talked about the legal parts of it, like the stories leading up to the legal ramifications. But a lot of what they talk about in the film is also the very sad conditions the animals are in, and also the people that work there, which that was actually very hard for me to hear about some of the people that were living there. So what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm actually going to interrupt what we're doing for half a second. And I'm gonna just, here we go.
Wait, can you just tell me what you're doing?
Yep. Hello, Instagram. We are live right now on YouTube with these people talking about Tiger King and Joe Exotic, and also more coronavirus anxiety from somebody, while we wear our
You have some
sweet kick-ass suits and dresses. And
it's animal print.
It is
Friday.
Yeah, sure. Animal
I
Print
think what
Friday.
day it was. I don't know what day it is.
So go to youtube.com and search The Illest Couple, and you can watch us live like they are. And see, that's how you cut a promo while doing a live video. Nailed it.
Cool beaners. But yes, so
As you were.
it's super crazy is pretty much the main idea. I did not realize that this many people had them in captivity. And one of the funny things that I realized when I was watching it, remember I said to you, I had seen a picture of the wrestler, The Undertaker, because we watch wrestling. And he had visited a cat sanctuary with his wife. And the guy was in the documentary, which is insane. I was like, that's the guy that was with The Undertaker. But they're all bigger than life characters. But let's start to talk about Joe, because Joe is the main guy. He is the Tiger King. I honestly believe that he started out wanting to help tigers. I don't think he was a bad guy to start with. I did read horrible things about his childhood, that there was all kinds of abuse. And, he said his dad didn't really treat any of the kids like kids. They were kind of like farmhands to him, and he was in the Bible Belt, and he's flamboyantly gay. So, I mean, he really didn't have an easy time of it. Not that that's an excuse. I always say that it's just an explanation of how things might have gotten to this point, how he got involved in something like this. Because you'll see through the thing, he's very dramatic.
I'm playing on my phone now. Sorry.
Yeah, he's very dramatic. He really wants all attention on him. And the main thing I believe about everybody that has the big cats, from what I'm reading, is I think they have narcissistic personalities.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know how much do you know about narcissistic personality disorder. You know some, but not probably a ton, right?
No,
you might know some people. With
the only thing I know about
not me. Were you?
The only thing I know about narcissism is that back in the 90s, WWF had a wrestler. Is that not a good start?
No, it's funny. I was just making fun. I like making fun faces.
It's okay. Actually, this is not a good start.
No, tell me.
But in 1995, the WWF, I think it was 95, had a WWF wrestler who was a face, or a good guy, that they were trying to use basically to replace Hulk Hogan. Bottom line is, he was Lex Luger. Well, when he first came into the company, he prior to that, maybe a year or so prior, I'm doing great with that description. But anyway, he came in as a bad guy, and he was the narcissist Lex Luger. And basically, he came out and stared in mirrors at himself.
And that is the main thing people know about
that is my PhD in narcissism.
People know about narcissism is that when you say someone's narcissistic, that they like looking at themselves, they think they're great. They do definitely think they're great. A big thing is wanting to be the center of attention. Likes drama, creates a scene, kind of thing.
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, no. I don't
That's not
drama
you,
at all.
no. And with Joe Exotic, I wrote down some examples of things that he definitely shows to be a narcissist. So there was a woman, I'm sorry, it's actually, he goes by he, him pronouns. So I got to say he, him pronouns. Someone that worked at the place. Are you?
Somebody commented on something.
I thought you said phone time was done.
Kathy will now continue.
this woman, I mean, this gentleman, this person,
I'm so sorry.
but you're really distracting me.
It's not the suit though.
It's not the suit. He got his arm torn off. Like he said it was his fault. Not Joe, the worker, Safi, was what he was called.
Go on.
So you're supposed to use a stick, I guess, to like, I don't know what the stick is for. Maybe to put the meat in. I think that's what it was. And he put meat in with his hand, which is not the way they're supposed to do it, and got his whole arm torn off. So
it's not great.
What would you do though? Okay, if that happened on your zoo, on your grounds, what would you do? If you had to tell people they had to leave, like, how would you tell them?
Because of a tragedy?
Like, they don't know exactly what happened.
Right.
How would you?
So I would just make an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, due to some circumstances beyond our control, we're going to actually have to close the park early. We'll be happy to issue refunds at a later date.
He did do that.
Something to that effect. And we appreciate your understanding.
Good.
We'll be open tomorrow.
So he did say that they would get refunds or they could come back another time. So that part he did well. But he goes into the gift shop, and what he said is, how does he say it? He said, yeah, well, one of our workers got their arm torn off by a tiger, so we're gonna have to close for today. Everyone's got to leave. So he could have just
wait. What? That was real?
Yeah, he went into and you see people's faces like,
oh, there's video.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's another part of him is he's almost constantly being taped for his reality show that never got picked up, obviously, but he seems to try to do things partly for the camera, but yeah, he does that. And then he also, instead of, again, if something happened to an employee of yours, you would probably be worried and want to make sure they're okay. The first thing that they have him saying after the camera goes off, and again, now maybe, you know how editing is, but he said, this is going to financially ruin me. So again, he's thinking about himself. How is this going to affect me? Not
that dude just lost his arm.
Yeah. Which props to that guy. Went to the hospital. They said he'd have to have like 6 or 7 operations to get functioning, or he could get it amputated. Decided to just get it amputated. Was back at work in I think 5 or 7 days. It was just like, yeah, whatever.
What is happening already?
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of the people that work there, and because you asked me why, I told you that they would make $100 a week, which is obviously, we both know, very little money. And you said, why would they do that? Why would they stay there? Well, they did get free housing, if you could call it that. It was trailers. And they showed there were definitely lots of cockroaches. Everything was falling apart. You know, it was that kind of thing where you turn the water on and it's brown, you know, that kind of garbage. But a lot of these people don't have anywhere else to go. You know, they were people getting out of prison, or they were young and didn't know what to do with their lives, kind of thing. And as funny as it sounds, people are brought in by big cats. They think it's like interesting. And granted, I mean, I'll say before, when I was younger, man, I would have loved to be around a little tiger cub, and they're so cute. I want to hug them. But guess what? They are wild animals. They are not to play with.
They are beastly.
Yeah. And the problem is they can turn, you know. So the other things that show that he is narcissistic, he would always be shooting off firearms.
Pew, 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 pew.
Yeah. Like they showed him shooting him into the water, which again, not exactly harmful because no one's there, but it's not exactly safe either. What if something went wrong and someone was in the water? Or what if it ricocheted off something? Like he would just do it for fun. When he gets sued by Carol Baskin, who we will talk about, she wants, you know, he doesn't have money for her to take. So at that point, so she could be taking some of his property. So instead of giving it to her, he like ruins his own property. He puts like explosives on his bed, for instance, and shoots it so it explodes. Like it's just very, you know, odd behavior. Yeah.
That's one way to describe it.
And he's always wanting to be with somebody else. And that's, I had this chart, but I couldn't fit everything. So I'm just going to explain to you because I need to read it. So it's not really going to be very helpful. You can't really see it anyway. It's more for me.
You know what's awesome is because of the way the camera is, it's probably backwards.
Yeah. So let me just look at it.
Oh, wait, here.
No,
Now,
I
there,
won't.
it's backwards. Now they can. Nope. I'm done. Okay.
So
Sorry for the backwards stuff. That's fine. You can put that there for now.
Joe Exotic, over his time, had 5 different husbands. He is still currently married. One thing I did not check. Can you do me a favor, quick fact checker, and look up when he was born?
Joe
Because I
Exotic?
want to get an idea of how old he was when these marriages occurred. Because I know how old the people were, but I'm not sure how old
Let's
he
see.
was.
When was God born?
Did you call him God?
Yeah.
He's not God.
Oh, right. Joe Exotic.
Excuse me. I mean, while you're looking that up too, excuse me, some of the other things narcissistic personalities have problems with keeping money.
He is, let's see, he just had a birthday
Happy birthday.
back in March.
He probably has coronavirus, maybe.
And he is,
But what year was he born?
he's 57,
Right, but year, I need to know the year. he was born.
63.
Okay. Right. 63. So in the late 80s, he would have been almost 30, right? I mean,
In the late 80s?
Yeah.
No, he'd have been late 20s.
late 20s. Okay,
Mid 20s.
okay. So this one's not so bad. His first husband he met when it was in the late 80s, and his name was Brian Ryan. He was 19 when they met. He was a guy who was called bouncer at a club. And
What kind of club?
a gay club.
I see.
And they moved in together almost immediately, and they never got technically married, but they were together because at that point, gay marriage was not allowed. So they, I'm sorry, I'm so easily distracted by what you're doing. I apologize. So they got together. They've had a bunch of poodles together. There were no cats at this point, but unfortunately, he passed away in 2001 from HIV complications. So,
R.I.P. Brian.
yeah. And I mean, there's not much written about him, and I'm going to have to look at 2 different sources here. So,
In the meantime, hello, everyone. My name is Sean.
just making sure I'm not missing anything.
This wonderful
okay.
suit is brought to you by Oppa-Suits,
Yeah.
who I would love to receive an endorsement from. Oppa-Suits. Don't dress like everyone else. Dress Oppa-Suit. Was that good?
That was great.
I just made that up on the fly.
Yeah.
Here comes the check.
So, okay, so I was a little wrong. They did open up the zoo together with him. It doesn't say a date of when they did that, but it did say that they, quote, grew to resemble each other with mullets and horseshoe mustaches, dressed in jeans and boots.
Oh, good.
On Saturday, they would snort pink-tinged meth and go out to bars.
Pink-tinged meth.
Yeah, there's a lot of meth in this story, which if you watched it, is not a surprise because there's a lot of missing teeth. And I don't mean that to be derogatory, but it's true. So his second husband partner, he met within a year of Brian's death. This guy was a little older. He was 24. So at the time, Joe was probably close to his 30s, though, at that time. And this was a guy named J.C. Hartpence. He was a guy who worked in, like, not entertainment, but what is it called? Oh, events industry. So he does, like, event producing and things like that. So he was the one who helped him. He would take his show on the road, which is something you and I haven't talked about yet with this guy, and was a big problem for Carol Baskins.
We have not talked about taking a show on the road with this guy yet.
So he had his
I'm
own.
the worst.
He had a zoo, but he would go to malls and places like that and have the tiger cubs that people could pet. Which, when I think about that right now, that seems like the most lawsuit ready idea in the world.
Well, they're babies, right? Like kitties.
But they were doing that, and they got together, and they would let kids pet the tiger clubs. They went to Texas, Oklahoma, Wisconsin. So their relationship took a dark turn within a few years, and he reportedly, Hartpence wanted the zoo to become rehabilitation. So what the difference is, rehabilitation would mean the animals just go there and get to live out their lives. Joe wanted to breed them because he wanted to make money and sell them, because people will pay about, I've read like the lowest is like $2,000, but that's still
For a tiger?
for a tiger cub. Yeah.
It's going to get bigger and eat you.
Yeah, but people don't know. But he, in 2003, Joe reportedly threatened Hartpence with a photograph of their tiger, Goliath, holding a piece of meat that was labeled JC's remains, along with a note reading, if you don't get your shit together, this is going to be your reality. So Joe was a little volatile, trying to, get him to know that he's going to eat him. So
That's not great.
So Hartpence turned it around and later held 2 guns to Joe's head while he was asleep and said he was leaving. And
2 guns.
yeah, that's what it tells me. After talking him down, Joe called the police and Hartpence was arrested. Obviously, Joe doesn't look great in the situation, but Hartpence is now serving life in prison for murder. Not this murder, nothing to do with this case, another murder. And he's also a convicted pedophile. So not a great guy. So that's Joe's second husband. Now,
sounds like a good guy.
those are 2 that were not in the story at all when you watch the documentary, because that was before the time. Now, this is the one everybody knows. John Finlay, he became his 3rd husband. Now we're at 2003, and you said Joe was born in 63, right?
Yep. So this is 40.
So how old is he? He's 40. He hired 19-year-old John Finlay to help run his zoo and roadshow. Finlay is the one that's with him the longest. He ends up being with him until 2014, I think, or 2015, in that vicinity. So he's with him a long time. He has a tattoo right below his belt that says privately owned by Joe Exotic.
What?
That at the end, he ends up getting covered up. Like they show him getting, it's not even a good cover. Like you can't see the actual words anymore, but he covers it up with like a bull head or like a steer, I mean. But then there's like words coming out the side. So it's very
privately owned by Joe Exotic?
Yeah. I don't know why privately. Why not just owned? That's the part I don't get. Like, I don't know. But he's missing a lot of teeth, but I have read that they are not missing due to meth, even though he did meth. It was from before that because of some other reason. I forget the reason, but he made sure to let everyone know it was not meth because that's what everyone was talking about. So in early 2014, they finally get married, like officially married, because that can be done at that point. But it is a three-way ceremony between him and his next husband, Travis Michael Maldolone.
Wait. Hold on. So,
and I say husband, by the way. The other 2 he wasn't married to, but if he could have been married, I'm sure he would have been married. So
this is his 3rd husband.
Husband, yes.
And while marrying his 3rd husband, he also marries his 4th husband.
Right.
At the same time.
Correct. Yeah. So he's with this guy for a very long time. And I mean, I don't think everything was super happy per se. But they said less than a year after that unconventional ceremony, he wanted out. He said that Joe was becoming domineering, controlling, and obsessive. I don't know much about meth, but I'm sure that had something to do with it. Doesn't meth make you very like angry? No, but I mean,
it makes you very volatile.
Yeah,
it seems like it makes you very.
I mean, I'm not saying from personal experience.
I was like,
no, but I've
watched enough Breaking Bad. I should know.
Right.
I'm gonna go. Let's see. Going by Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It makes you very volatile, paranoid.
Would obsessive go along with that, you think, too? Like paranoid, obsessive, probably.
Yes.
I feel like they're linked a little. But yeah, so he ended up, Finlay met, the 3rd husband ends up attacking Joe in a parking lot, and he gets charged with battery. So you'll see in the documentary, though, if you ever watch it, he was having an affair with a lady that worked at the front desk, and he ends up getting married and like having a kid with her. Like, so people question if he was even gay or not. But then, of course, you don't have to be just gay or just straight. He could have been, you know, bi. He could have been what I forget other terms right now. My brain is like lost, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Fluid into sexuality. So I don't think that that's saying that his relationship with Joe was all fake. I'm sure when he first met him. And again, though, you've noticed a pattern. All these people are very young. They don't have, you know, other than his second husband, who was a little older and had an actual job. These are all people that didn't have much going for them. The first guy was a bouncer, but he wasn't making good money. He wasn't.
I don't know. He sounds pretty. They sound pretty successful in general.
And yes, Joe had.
I'm lying about that part. They don't sound successful.
John had his teeth fixed. So here's a picture just for you to see of what he looks like on the left, and then once he had his teeth fixed. Like, teeth make a huge difference, right? He looks like a completely different dude.
Yeah.
That was in the documentary.
Now, who's that one?
That's John Finlay. That's the third guy. I don't know if you can't see that.
Yeah.
It's too bright.
Yeah, I can get. Here we go. Ready, guys? Wait for it.
So yeah, without the teeth and when he got his teeth fixed, he's a much better looking dude. So
Boom.
now he's married, got a kid. Hopefully he's keeping healthy. But he was upset. I think I told you this because he had his new teeth by the end of the documentary when they were like doing the tattoo cover up, but they didn't show it or talk about it. So he was really pissed off that nobody's got to see his good teeth. So he actually went like to the press and was like showing them his new teeth, which I understand though. I mean, he wanted them to see how he didn't look that way anymore. But he also started his Facebook page to try to change the narrative about how his polygamist marriage to Joe and Travis was portrayed. So he didn't like the way he was portrayed in there.
Shocking.
Yeah. There are a lot of memes going around about his thing that when he did his interview, he had his shirt off the whole time. And people, the people that did the documentary said it was because A, it was hot, and B, he likes his tattoos. So I don't know if that's the actual reasoning or if they asked him to and they're just not talking about it. But
still pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
This is such a whirlwind.
And that's the thing they talk about in it is that anytime you get in this big cat world, as they call it, it's a different world. Like they are pretty much, you know, I don't like using this word lightly, but it's like a cult. I mean, you get into these worlds and, you know, when you go into a cult, normally they take away your power in a way, like they cut you off from everybody else. They make sure you don't have a lot of money so you can't leave on your own. These men weren't making enough money to leave. They were pretty much, what's the word? They were dependent upon him for their living. There was not much you can do with $100 a week and and getting out of there. And I mean, yeah, they had homes that were bug infested and gross, but they were still somewhere to sleep. And the one gentleman who wasn't involved with Joe in that way romantically, but he was like the head of it. He seemed to really care for the cats. And that part made me very sad because he was at the end, they were showing him being like a drunken mess because he felt like he did wrong by the cats and like let them down. And that part made me really sad because some people that were there did have good hearts and wanted to do the right thing. But Joe ran this place into the ground, you know?
By the way, hello to everyone that is watching us right now.
And I'm getting teared up about Joe Exotic. Sorry. So if you've met me, you know this though, right? But anyway, okay. So
there.
His fourth husband was the one that he got married to at the same time. So in 2013, Travis Mondolino is, guess how old?
Okay. So in 2003, they got married. Right?
No, 2013 is when Travis starts working there. I just wanted you to guess how old this new husband is.
But I'm saying, so when did they have the three-way ceremony?
2014.
Oh, so he's still with Joe at this point.
Well, right. I'm saying John Finlay was
trying to do the math.
Yeah, John Finlay was still with him when Travis comes into the picture. That's why they all get married.
And this was the state of Florida.
No, they're not in Florida.
Where are they?
Oklahoma, maybe?
Okay, well, I don't know what it's like out there, but I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess that Travis, at the time, 2014, Travis is boy, I'm going to take a
Well, I'm
real
more
shot here.
asking because of the other ages.
Yeah. I'm going to say Travis is 16.
No, all the other ages were pretty much the same. 19.
Right. I thought maybe he went younger.
No. He stays with 19.
So he keeps finding these 19-year-olds.
Well, and it says that he started working at the suggestion of one of Joe's employees, but it doesn't say who. And then, yeah, they were married in the three-way ceremony. It took place in a dance hall across the street from the zoo, and several of the animals were participants. There are animals in there. Like, I forget who had the rings. It might have been a bear. I forget. It just sounds like a joke.
Wait a minute. The ring bear?
We'll have to watch it. Oh, I don't. Maybe it wasn't a bear. Don't quote me on that. We'll look it up later.
I just want to imagine a bear carrying the rings in his paws.
And it's adorable. And then he would also...
And then just swiping and just
he would just murder you. Well, I said, though, somebody made the good point. Think about it. You've been around cats that get swipey, right? When a cat swipes at you, it's a little scary. Like when all of a sudden they're like, can you imagine a paw like 5 or 6 times that size just swiping at you?
No.
I would be so scared. And I'm sure they can smell your fear. Smell it. They say that. Now, Travis's story is actually really sad, though. So Travis always said that, like, he always had a gun, and he always said that, he said that it wouldn't work without, what did he have? A Ruger pistol. And he said he was trying to prove a point about how it wouldn't fire without a magazine. I don't know anything about guns. I guess that is not true. No. On the documentary, they show not him. He's underneath apparently where the camera is, and he's talking to another guy who works there. But you see the guy who works there, his face, like, because he shot himself. So they say it is an accidental suicide. Obviously, there's no way to know if that was accidental or not.
Holy
crap. Yeah, it's really sad. And I mean, this kid was like, that was 2017. So he was 23. I mean, he was still very young. They talked to his mom on the documentary about how Joe involves her in the ceremony, like for the funeral and stuff. And, kind of makes himself look good by having her there and stuff. And then he never talks to her again. Like he kind of shuts her out. And Joe tries to make it look like he's so sad. And, but the mom thinks it's all like a big show. She's like, I don't know what happened. I just wanted him to be happy. And since he was happy, I didn't make any big deal about it. But then she believed that he was,
How old was Joe at the time that they got married?
Well, they got married in 2014. So
2014. So that's 51.
Yep. Yeah. So again, it's that thing about, I mean, I'm not making light of it, but it's like I keep getting older and they stay the same age.
Oh,
all right. He just keeps going after those college age, but they're not college people. So yeah, he actually, it says, there was a bullet in the chamber that killed him there. And then that was the time that he was running for Oklahoma governor. Joe was running for Oklahoma governor, and he held a press conference at the park the next day. So there's actually videos of that. You can watch him talking about it. And he shared like Instagram posts on the 1-year anniversary. You can see, and also in the documentary, they have I guess you'd call it a tribute to him. It's so, again, I'm sorry to speak ill of the people who have problems and are sad and everything. It's very redneck. It's like 2 all-terrain vehicles and stuff, and it's like, written with like, I love you, hun, I miss you. I got to find the picture. I'll have to put that up because I just looked at it, and Joe was very particular about how he wanted it, but man, was it rough. So after Travis dies, he told
R.I.P. Travis.
Yeah, which actually I am very sad that he seemed like a really nice person, like out of everybody, because they do the documentary. They're doing the documentary during this time too, so they were there.
Oh,
or at least maybe it was the footage. I'm sorry, maybe it was the footage for the
like security.
No, for the he was trying to get a reality show going.
Right.
So they were filming. So I mean, that's why there's so much footage of this. And when they talked to him, he he didn't seem like a bad kid. He was just kind of dumb and young and never mind. I'm not gonna say the rest. You know where I'm going.
I'm so glad you didn't.
But
Thank you all for tuning in, by the way. You're watching.
He's full of something.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I only have one more husband. So,
only one more.
Yeah. So after Travis dies, though, supposedly it was about 2 months after, right away, actually, I'm sorry. He told his associates look for prospects for him on Grindr or Tinder, and they found Dylan Passage. They married 2 months after Travis died, when he was, Dylan was 22, so a little older. But 2 months. I mean, I understand, though, some people deal with grief in other ways. But again, when we look at it from a narcissistic personality kind of thing, he just needs constant reassurance and somebody there that's telling him, that he's, he's great and perfect. And
it's got to be a child.
Pretty much, because they don't know better.
But
Yeah. And Joe was paranoid about being followed. So they were in Florida at the time, but they posted things that saying they were in California, Mexico, Belize. They weren't in any of those places. He was just trying to, because this is the time that he's in trouble for supposedly trying to get someone to murder Carol, which we're not even going to get to that, because now I just see how long we've already been talking. I'm going to probably stick to just talking about Joe mostly, because otherwise we'll be here forever. But they're reportedly still together, and he did do an article or talk to somebody in an article about how Joe is dealing in prison, because Joe Exotic is in prison.
What did you find out that you just told me last night about Joe?
That he might have coronavirus?
There you go.
Yeah, he's in solitary, and I forget if he actually has it or if he just might have it. But yeah, so the whole thing is, he's not the only big cat guy, and he's not the only one that would be narcissistic. The one I talked to about Doc Antle. Is
that the Undertaker guy?
Yes. So real quick, this guy, his deal is getting young women. So the young women come there and they work for him. From one of the women said, pretty much 12, 16-hour days. You're working the whole time. You get no days off. And the reason he says is, he's like, this is a different lifestyle. The cats don't let us take a day off, whatever. But they start off same thing in mobile homes and stuff. But when you get higher on the food chain, you get your own house on the property and stuff. And it's pretty much like he's not married to any of these women, but he's pretty much married to, 4 different women. They all have their own houses.
And how old are they? Joe's age was 19.
Right.
That he was getting the guys at.
Well, the thing with Doc Antle is he kept these women longer, so some of them are older. 30s older.
But
not
when did he meet them?
That I don't know. I didn't look fully into his background.
Okay.
But in the documentary, it shows all these women, and they're they're dressed a certain way. It looks very like Amazon woman going out in the jungle to tame the cats looks, and they're the ones that take the cats around to show everybody, and they have them playing drums and all these things. Everything is about giving this persona. He rides around in his, because it's pretty much like his own town. They have the cats there, and then they have their houses all on the same lawn or land. And he rides around on an elephant that I forget if he got it gifted to him or if it was with his father, that you can't even handle this. You don't know.
No, I'm what is happening?
He rides around the town like the mayor of his own town on that. And again,
he rides around like he's the mayor of Bangor, Pennsylvania. He's just.
That's you.
Wait, what?
Sorry, Brooke.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
But no, but that's the thing. These people create a world where they are king and they can have whatever they want. The downside of that is that they seem fun and everything seems bright, but usually with these kind of relationships now, to talk about, real stuff behind closed doors.
# real talk.
Yeah. These relationships usually turn
Violent,
not-
like
Mental abuse.
mental abuse.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's the
Totally.
thing. They don't always turn physically violent, but they, everyone gets belittled a lot. The things I found about here, where is it? The nine things for narcissistic personality disorder. Grandiose sense of self-importance. These people think they're great. You're not counting yourself, are you?
No.
I was going to say you're not. Preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. That definitely fits those men, especially Joe Exotic, because I think he really did want true love, but he didn't know how to look for it. Like he just, kept screwing it up. The belief that they're special and they're unique, and that they should only be around people that are special also.
Okay.
4, the need for excessive admiration. There is one shot too that they made him sit, like the guy doing the reality show asked him to sit on a throne. And then they show Joe going back later and going back and rewinding and watching that part over and over. So he loved the idea of him being like
the king.
Yeah. They have a sense of entitlement. People that think that they're allowed, that they should have things just because of who they are, not because of the work they did for it. And sadly, I'm thinking of a lot of people I know too, which is sad, but interpersonally exploitive behavior. So that makes me think a lot of the Doc Antle guy. He is getting what he wants from these women, sexually and otherwise, to allow them to have a place to live and to have, again, I think they got paid around the same amount, like $100 a week or something crazy like that. I mean, they also have lack of empathy. So Joe showed that when he talked about the money he was going to lose because of the park being closed.
Right.
Not about his worker who lost his arm. I mean, that would be the last thought in my mind would be money. Envy of others or belief that others are envious of them. So, I think it's probably a flip-flop that they look at what other people have, but then their brain takes over and is like, I'm better than them. They just think that, I'm just thinking that because I don't know. I went nowhere.
No, I understand what you're saying.
The last thing is demonstration of arrogant and haughty behaviors or attitudes. So when you see Doc Antle talk, he's talking about how he is very, this is a different world. The cat world is, if you don't get it, you don't get it, that kind of thing. Everything, when these people talk, it's that, well, you don't get it. This is our world,
It sounds like, it's funny because that sounds like every, not every, it sounds like many a stereotypically terrible or abusive relationship.
Yeah.
You don't know them like I do.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. The one thing I read that was interesting is because I always thought that narcissistic people would look for weak people to take over. And they said that definitely does happen, but also sometimes they look for very strong-willed people because they want to prove that they are stronger and they can take them down and cause them to bend to their will. So, for instance, like if someone is a great artist and then you behind closed doors, you slowly chip away at them believing in themselves, and they do have a whole list too of warning signs. And one of them that's very interesting is, because I remember this from being younger, like certain people that I didn't date, which is probably for the best, but coming on strong, like in that first month saying, I love you, like just out of the gate. And like, the people that are narcissistic shower you with compliments at first. They make you feel like you're the best thing in the world because they want to build you up, and then they bring you down and they make you feel like you're the only person. And it's a very domestic abuse way, even if it's not physical in all senses, it's very mental. They hog the conversation. Like if you first meet somebody and they are not asking about you, they're not interested in having a back and forth conversation, that's another red flag. I mean, they are just interested in talking about themselves. So run. They fish for compliments if they're not getting it. Now I fish for compliments also, but that's because I will admit I'm super insecure. It doesn't have anything to do with me being narcissistic. I don't think highly of myself at all. So Sean can attest to that. He lives with me. We said before, they lack empathy. So if you're, what were you going to say? Were you
But,
gonna agree?
but you're great.
Mm.
She's great.
I'm doing okay. Así.
She's great.
Spanish. They lack empathy. So again, I mean, if I was watching something with you and, you know, something horrible was happening to an animal and you did not show any sadness, I would be in trouble because that would make me worried. Why is this not upsetting to him? You know,
Yeah.
People that can watch, like, even when we watch things like Breaking Bad or Ozark, we get emotional about these fake people.
Hey, they're real.
Well, they are real to us. But that's the thing, like, you can put yourself in their place and feel it, even if it's not a real person. Someone that's narcissistic isn't going to feel that emotion. The scary part is narcissistic people who are very clever can kind of learn how behavior looks and make themselves look that way, which is more frightening even.
Sure.
They'll put you down and they'll lower your self-esteem. So that's a huge one. Like I said, they'll break you down, and they also will not define the relationship in some parts. So there might be this guy who comes on really strong and he's saying he loves you and everything. And, you know, you're dating and get a couple months in, but they don't want to be just with you. But they won't ever say that they're dating anybody else, but they're not going to introduce you as their girlfriend. So sadly, this sounds very similar to something we talked about.
I was just going to say, if you listen to our podcast, The Illest Couple, which you can listen to wherever you find other fine podcasts. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review and give us a 5-star rating. Anyway, this sounds exactly like what we were talking about in a recent episode that you can find called Real Talk Number 4.
Yes.
Where Kathy talks about a relationship she had with someone who was narcissistic.
Yeah, and it did say too, like, about the compliments, because that person actually said directly to me that, you know, I at some point when we were farther away from this, I don't think I ever felt the same way about you as you did about me, but you made me feel good about myself because I was complimentary. I was allowing them to do everything that they wanted to do and get away with it, you know, and I would still tell them how great they were. And it's like, I was like a yes man, I guess. You need to have somebody to tell you sometimes. And I think we're pretty good at that most times, about telling each other when we think the other is doing something that's not healthy for our relationship or for ourselves.
Yeah.
We definitely butt heads about certain things, but in general, I trust that when you tell me, if you come over to me and tell me that I'm not doing something right, there's got to be a reason you're bringing it up and you're being honest, you know?
Yeah.
But again, narcissistic people don't take criticism well at all. And they act like they have such high self-esteem, but actually their self-esteem, it's like a very thin layer. It's very easily poked away. And, they're really sad people in general. I mean, I can't imagine not feeling for other people or not really deeply caring about anybody. And that actually makes me sad for them. You know, I wish they could understand that. A lot of times they don't really know what causes narcissistic behavior. It's, they said it could partially be genetic, could also be upbringing. The problem is, you know, with many mental disorders, there's not like a test. You can't tell, unless you get a brain scan, where exactly it's coming from, you know? But if you look at family, from, if anyone's listened to my story, mine is obviously inherited. It's a family thing. But certain aspects of what I've gone through have brought it out in other ways. My brother and I are different. You've met Jesse, of course.
Love that guy.
He deals with things a lot differently than I do, but we have the general same feelings about a lot of stuff. He just doesn't express it like I do. So
he expresses it through sweet, 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 sweet rap.
He sure does.
Just go on Spotify and look up Shark Uppercut.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so this movie is funny. The documentary is hilarious until you sit and think, these are real people. this is very sad. And like I said, we've talked way too long, and I apologize. We didn't get to Carol Baskins. I know people were asking.
We can always do a follow-up. We can actually do an episode talking about Carol Baskins if you want, like next time we record.
But she's, I mean, she's not quite exactly the same. I don't believe she has as much narcissistic behavior. She might have some. But the other thing is men are much more likely to show this stereotypical narcissistic behavior. Women, sometimes it comes across a little differently. So maybe if I look into it further, I haven't really gotten to do much of that. But I mean, it's a very sad story and all. And at this point, apparently Joe Exotic is really excited, though, that everyone's talking about him.
Of course he is.
Right. But if you've watched it, it does not paint him in a good light. So again, the point, if someone is, it's to me, if someone's talking about me, I want it to be good things. I'd rather you not talk about me if you're going to say bad things. To him, he just wants to be talked about. And he, you know, feels like he's finally famous now. And he seriously thinks that he's going to get pardoned by the president and all this stuff. But it's, I mean, I don't know if he did what they said he did, or if he was, because he gets duped, by the way, by another guy who's even sleazier. And so he might have set him up. It's hard to tell. There's no clear-cut evidence if he was set up or not, but he's in jail. I mean, he's going to be away for 22 years, I think it is.
It's not going well for you, Tiger Man.
No, but he's still got his husband, who's,
thank goodness,
doing whatever he does.
Who's hopelessly devoted.
I'm sure he is. When his husband, it's easy to be devoted to somebody in jail. That's a whole other thing. I've listened to, because
that is a conversation we can have sometime on our show.
I listened to a podcast about women that get involved with men when they're in jail. And it's partially because they don't have to, they always know where they are. They don't have to worry about them leaving them. They're in jail. Where are they going to go? So they're the only ones that are getting that attention. And again, it's one of those things where I can understand, but it's sad. Like, I don't fully get it.
That's crazy.
It's just, there's a lot of sad people out there, and you will see me posting tons of memes about Tiger King, but I'm also posting memes about coronavirus, and I don't think that's a laughing matter either. But that's how I deal with how I feel about things. I try to be lighthearted about it sometimes, because if I don't laugh, I will cry. I will cry a lot, because I do. I cry a lot. I'm crying almost right now.
Oh.
I'm okay. But I'm okay. But I do. I feel for, you know, the people that were wronged by this guy and the people that died. I mean, like, and I want to know what happened to the guy that helped run the zoo, who was so drunk and sad, because he didn't deserve that. Like, he did the right thing. So, all in all, it's sad.
Apparently, it is quite sad.
It is. But when you, like, because when I'm thinking about it now in the idea of mental disorders and how to the outside world, they were like having fun and a great time. But when you look deeper, it's really just depressing. And man, do I need a haircut.
And that is Tiger King, according to Kathy.
Part of Tiger King.
Part of Tiger King, according to Kathy. I think that's a wrap, as they say.
Yeah. Sorry if that was super meandering, but there's a lot. When we started talking, I really didn't even think we'd have enough to talk about, and holy crap, we're at an hour, because this whole story is insane.
That is like every episode of everything.
Well, that's true.
You always think you don't have enough, and then you have a lot.
An hour goes fast.
So what we'll end up doing is, first of all, thank you guys for tuning in, for watching. What we will do is we'll probably look to do another live stream next week. Probably next week. But anyway, what we'll do is I'll get this edited a little bit. And next Thursday, oh my goodness.
I'm just debating if I should cut my own hair. Gina told me no. Tell me not to do it. Sorry.
Help. But yeah, so since we're stuck inside like the rest of you guys, we thought, so once this whole COVID-19 thing clears up, hopefully it does at some point, it will eventually down the road. When we do live streams of our podcast recordings, they'll be for our Patreon subscribers, our patrons. But for now, you know, we want to offer something to everyone. And so our podcast that we do, if you're not familiar, is we have honest, passionate conversations about mental health. And but we thought this would be an interesting topic since people are really interested in Tiger King, and there are definitely mental health concerns that go along with this.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. But if you have a question for us about mental health, or
If you
a
just
topic
need to
you'd like
talk.
us to talk about on an episode, or if you need somebody to talk to, we can keep it anonymous.
I don't talk on the phone, but I will message everybody. So
Yeah.
if you need to message us, go for it. If you want to talk, don't call me though, because I won't answer.
And if you want to go to our Patreon and look into subscribing, it's patreon.com/illestcouple. But what I was saying is we'll edit this down and we'll get it up for next Thursday,
Okay.
most likely when our episode comes out. And before this part of the episode, there'll be some additional content. We'll talk about Kathy's recent grocery shopping adventures. And
how it took my whole day away, pretty much.
Yes, and how your anxiety and feelings on the current situation are beginning to escalate. And yeah, so we'll talk about that and more. So a new episode of the Illest Couple podcast will be available next Thursday. Wherever you listen to find podcasts right now. If you go to the Illest Couple, the newest episode, which came out this
Last
past week,
Thursday.
We had the pleasure of talking about coronavirus, COVID-19, and really getting a different perspective, and that perspective being through a teenager and what it's like to be a teenager going through this and whatnot. We talked to our daughter Jade. So anyway, go ahead. There's plenty of episodes, plenty of topics we talk about, and we hope you guys love it. Did you have anything to add?
Well, I wanted to thank everybody who ends up watching this for making me get dressed for once, because I've been wearing pajamas pretty much exclusively. It's the first time I put on a dress, and
I wear this every day.
Sean put on his suit. He didn't feel the need to put on a shirt, but it looks good, I think.
It's whatever.
I mean, I do think the Tiger King would approve. Ooh,
I'm looking at a picture of him right now.
Yeah, his chest is out, actually. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You needed your gold chain though, like you used to have.
I need a tan.
No,
I don't.
Don't.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
We'll get spray tans and we'll look like Jersey Shore.
Opposites. Thank you guys for tuning in. Go check out the podcast right now or later. Oh yeah, I forgot the most important thing. Take care of yourselves
And each other.
and stay home, please.
I was trying to kiss him.
She did it.
That was so